The dense forest loomed tall and imposing as the group of hikers ventured deeper into the woods. Led by their adventurous spirit and love for the outdoors, they had embarked on a weekend excursion to explore the untamed wilderness. The tall trees whispered secrets of centuries past, and the only sounds that pierced the silence were the crunching of leaves underfoot and the distant murmur of a babbling brook. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the hikers realized that they had lost their way on an unfamiliar trail. Fear and uncertainty gnawed at the edges of their determination, but they pressed on, determined to find their path back. Their perseverance led them to a clearing where an eerie sight awaited. An old decrepit house stood at the forest's edge. Its time-worn boards and shattered windows seemed to tell a story of abandonment and decay. It was an unsettling presence in the heart of the wilderness. Curiosity got the better of them, and the hikers cautiously approached the house. The air was heavy with foreboding, and an unnatural silence enveloped the area. It was as though the very forest held its breath in anticipation. The creaking of the old wooden porch beneath their feet echoed through the silence as they cautiously approached the house. One of the hikers, Sarah, peered through a cracked window, her breath hitching as her eyes widened with shock. Inside the dimly lit room, a family sat around a long wooden table. Their faces were twisted, and their eyes bore the unsettling mark of generations of inbreeding. They seemed to be in the midst of a grim feast, and an array of odd meats adorned their plates. Apprehension coursed through the hikers as they watched the bizarre scene unfold. It was clear that this family was far from ordinary, and the unsettling atmosphere grew more oppressive by the second. Just as they were about to retreat, the door of the house creaked open, revealing a towering figure, a hulking man with wild, greasy hair and vacant eyes. His clothes were tattered, and his grin was unnerving. "Welcome, strangers," he drawled, his voice slurred and guttural. "Join us for supper." The hikers exchanged uneasy glances, but before they could respond, the towering man beckoned them inside with a sweep of his gnarled hand. Reluctantly, the hikers entered the house, their senses overwhelmed by the musty odor that permeated the air. The family watched them with a disturbing mixture of curiosity and hunger. As they were seated at the table, the hikers couldn't help but notice the strange dishes before them. Plates held meat that appeared neither familiar nor appetizing. The family's cold, calculating eyes bore into them, awaiting their reaction. The tension in the room was palpable as the hikers took hesitant bites of the meat, their senses on high alert. It was like nothing they had ever tasted before, a peculiar blend of flavors that sent shivers down their spines. Desperation began to take hold as they realized the sinister truth. The meat on their plates was far from ordinary. It was a gruesome feast of unknown origin, and the family's macabre appetite was revealed in horrifying detail. Fear gripped the hikers as they realized they were trapped in the clutches of this deranged family. They needed to devise a plan to escape this nightmare, to flee the house in the woods and find their way back to civilization. In hushed whispers, they plotted their escape, careful not to arouse suspicion. As the family continued to feast, the hikers concocted a plan to overpower the towering man who had greeted them at the door. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, they sprang into action, their collective strength and desperation propelling them forward. In a swift and determined effort, they subdued the hulking figure, disarming him of his weapon, a rusted meat cleaver. With their captor incapacitated, they made a frantic dash for the door, their hearts pounding with the intensity of their escape. The family's enraged cries echoed behind them as they fled into the dark forest, guided only by the pale moonlight. The hikers ran for what felt like an eternity, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. They dared not look back, for fear of what pursued them in the darkness. The forest was a maze of shadows, an ominous silence, and they had no way of knowing if they were truly safe. Hours passed, and exhaustion set in. They knew they had to find help, to escape the clutches of the inbred family and their grotesque appetite. But the forest seemed endless, and despair threatened to consume them. As dawn broke, they stumbled upon a ranger station, their faces pale and their bodies battered. Their harrowing tales spilled from their lips, and the authorities launched an investigation into the disturbing house in the woods. But the hikers knew that the horror they had encountered would stay with them forever, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked in the heart of the wilderness. They had survived, but the memory of that gruesome supper would haunt their nightmares for the rest of their days.